Let's tell creepy stories around the campfire and roast marshmallows. This light's really hot. That was not smart. Welcome back to 31 Days of Halloween. Today we're going to be talking about a 1983 movie called Sleepaway Camp. It's, I guess, playing on the fears of kids who go away to sleepaway camp, and then you always hear like these rumors of, there's a creepy guy in the woods, or such and such campers drowned in the lake, a la Friday the 13th. Or, whatever other weird, creepy myths that urban legends campers like to come up with, or counselors will come up with to kind of freak each other out or freak the kids out, sometimes even freaking out the other counselors. So for anybody who's ever been to an actual sleepaway camp, I guess you resonate with this pretty well. I went to sleepaway camp one time and we were in the middle of the woods, and it was creepy sometimes because it's dark and, you're there with all these strangers. So this movie makes use of all of those tropes, but first it starts off with this father and his two kids, and they're out on a lake near Camp Arawak, or whatever the camp is called, and then there's there's some campers, and they're out water skiing, and they somehow manage to run over this father and his children, his daughter and son. And only one of them survives. The girl survives, Angela. And in the course of this, you also see some other guy on the shore, and he's talking to the father. And apparently they're together. I didn't really get that from the beginning of the movie, but you find out a little later because there's a scene where the kids are laughing about their father and this other man like having sex or something. It was really weird. This movie is just absolutely bizarre, because after they all die, or the father and the boy die, they get to you cut to the aunt's house, who's absolutely bizarre. Like her character is acted so like just completely out there that it's almost like, is this the real movie? Are they trying to pretend like this is a real movie? Are they doing this on purpose to make it funny? Is it not supposed to be funny? And a lot of the characters are like that. There's like an overly perverted character who works in the kitchen. The camp owner is like so against the kids finding out that people are dying that it's comical, because he's just so intent on them not finding out that he's willing to go to ridiculous lengths to stop them from discovering that people are dying. And all the camp counselors are just caricatures of the mean girls, or the hot guys, or the weird kids, or the cool camp counselor. It's just like the movie took the tropes and was like, okay, these are our usual horror movie tropes. Let's amp it up by 100 and just run with it. And it was bizarre. It was not a good look for this movie. One review that I read said that it's a terrible movie, but it's a good slasher. And I guess I guess I could kind of agree with that, because the movie is pretty terrible. Even some of the kill scenes are pretty neat. Like they're not ones that you've seen like in other horror movies, especially like the slasher type horror movies, because usually in those it's people are getting stabbed, or they're getting like cut up, or beheaded and stuff like that. And here, you're not getting that so much. You've got a couple of really unique kills, and that was one of the better parts of this movie. So I guess that's why you can say it's a good slasher, even though the word itself kind of connotes that you're going to be cutting people up and ripping things apart, not how some of the people, or actually how most of the people died in this movie, where it was kind of by other unique sorts of means. So, and with those unique means of killing people, you don't get a lot of blood, which is odd for a slasher or for a horror movie in general. You also don't get a lot of sex, which is what usually happens in these sorts of horror movies, especially like slashers, where they take place at a camp where there's going to be a lot of teenagers and stuff. Um, there's like some kissing and like maybe some stuff that's implied, but nothing explicit and nothing really like in your face. Oh, these kids are like getting it on. It's really just kissing. So it's another kind of outside step in both the horror and the slasher genres, because usually the villain in the slashers is going after kids who are having sex and doing drugs and being bad kids. And I actually don't think there's any drugs used in the movie, or any sex to be had. So it's again a step outside the genre, which lends itself to yet again being unique, but not unique enough to rescue the movie from how bad it is. There, it seems like the movie was trying to rest itself entirely on the ending, which, if you've seen anything about this movie, like reviews or anything, usually they say like, oh, it's the most shocking ending. It's such a surprise ending. It's such a this ending. And I'm obviously not going to talk to anything specific about it because we're not in the spoilers yet. But again, it was kind of like, this is just bizarre. This doesn't make the movie better. Most of the movie revolves around kids either being bullies or being bullied. Most of the children are not nice at all, and even the one nice kid who is nice to Angela. So Angela is the daughter who survived, and she doesn't really talk to anybody. So this one nice boy goes and like befriends her, and like they kind of sort of start like dating or whatever, and she starts talking to him. But then he gets really weird and is like, at one point he like takes her behind the cabin and he's like, I have to show you something. And then he kisses her and she's like, don't do that. And then he kisses her again. And he's just really inappropriate in that regards. And then of course he gets mad at her because he feels entitled to getting her attention, or he feels that she owes him something because he's been nice to her. So there's really no nice kids in the movie, except maybe Ricky, who is Angela's cousin. Ricky is fairly nice throughout the entire movie, and maybe like two of the male camp counselors. They're pretty nice. One of the other weird things in this movie was that all of the men wore crop tops, or not all, most of them, like 95% of the men wore crop tops and short shorts, which is kind of a weird choice, but then apparently this movie was trying to emphasize like homosexuality and stuff like that, so I guess that makes sense for that choice. I don't know, the whole thing was just bizarre. So my rating and my friend's rating are pretty consistent with what the critics give it. So on IMDb it's got like a 6.3, and then on Rotten Tomatoes general viewership gives it a 60, and then the critics give it a 78. And I'm guessing it has something to do with like the ending and the meaning of it, and they thought it was super shocking, but I'll talk about that a little later. I would say go see this movie just to say that you've seen it, because I think it's considered to be like a classic in the horror genre. And I mean, the ending is something to talk about. It doesn't make the movie good, but it is kind of good for the shock value and to kind of talk about it and be like, oh my god, what is this that I just watched? Like, I just sat through this whole movie and this is how they're ending it. And there's also like a couple of sequels. I don't know if I'm gonna watch any of them. I don't think they get better as they go on. I think they get worse, as in the case with most sequels, unless they're done particularly well. So I would say go see it, but keep in mind that it's kind of not very good. It's short, so at least you won't be spending an excessive amount of time on it. You won't feel like you wasted too much time with it, if that's the case. But go check it out, just to say that you saw it. So we are going to go into spoiler territory now, so if you haven't seen the movie and you do want to check it out, now's your time to return to your cabin. But before you do, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and make sure you come back for the next one. And now we are going into spoilers. So the whole shocking ending here is that the surviving child is not actually the girl Angela. The surviving child is actually, I think it's Peter, his name is. And when he got to his aunt's house with Ricky, she was basically like, well, I already have a boy, so you're going to be a girl now, and your name is now Angela. And you find out that Angela is actually a boy because when they're looking for whoever's killing the people, they come upon Angela and with Paul, who was the boy that like was trying to see her and date her, and she's cut his head off. And when they get there, they're like, Angela, what have you done? And she stands up, and her hair is like out to here. She's snarling. Her face is like that almost, and then she's naked, so you see she has a penis, or he has a penis. And the camp counselor's like, she's a boy, and the whole thing is just so crazy. And what's even crazier is that people look at this story and they feel that it's transphobic because they're saying that the killer in the movie, the only trans person in the movie, is a killer, and that they are the movie is basically saying that if you're a trans person, you're crazy and you're going to kill people. I think this is a case of where you're looking a little too deep into something because you're ignoring the trauma that Peter has had where he saw his father and his sister die. And then you're ignoring the trauma of this boy who was sent to live with this insane aunt who now, without his permission, without his desire to change, has said, now you're going to be a girl. So it's not like he wanted to be a girl and they turned his character into a monster. It was, he's got a lot of trauma here, and he was forced into being something that he probably didn't want to be. Whether or not he wants to be that was never really explored. So, he's going to have some issues here. There's a lot of trauma for Peter. And to sit there and boil it down to, well, this movie's transphobic seems a little disingenuous, and almost like you're seeking out problems to find in a movie where there aren't necessarily any problems. Or at least with that aspect, because there's a lot of other problems with this movie. The fact that it is ridiculous and insane and doesn't make much sense. A couple interesting things about that is so a girl does play the role of Angela up until the very end, when they basically get a body double for her that's a man's body, and then they put a mask over him to look like Angela, and that's why the hair is insane and the face looks insane and he's just snarling and it just looks ridiculous. But the actress's mother didn't want her to act in any of the murder scenes, so you actually see it, they got male stand-ins to be like hands that you saw or shapes in windows and stuff. And the whole time you're looking at this and you're like, wow, those are some manly hands. Or like, that's a really big person standing there. Like, how can it be Angela? Because you basically think that it's Angela the entire time. And the movie kind of tricks you with that, but then at the same time, like, they have all these manly shapes doing these things, and what does it turn out to be? Angela is actually a boy and not a girl. So it's just a little weird, like that stuff. And then at the end, there's also a cop with a fake mustache, and it's a blatantly fake mustache. So it's almost kind of like the movie phoned it in, and it was like, well, it's already 8,000% weird. What's another little bit of weirdness? So, I mean, is the ending shocking? Sure. I actually said while we were watching it, after the second to last kill, where Judy gets murdered, you actually see, like, you see a shape in the door, and it looks like Angela, but it looks like a manly Angela. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if, like, it was Angela, but she's actually a boy? And this is at the second to last kill. So, you know, I think if you sit there and maybe think about it a little bit and just take into consideration how weird this movie is, you might be able to figure it out. Or maybe I've just seen way too many weird movies or weird horror movies in general that I was able to figure this out. But yeah, you know, I guess it could be shocking for other people. I know it's shocking. My friend was really shocked by it. So it was a weird movie. It was really weird. So I mean, watch it for the sake of watching it. Like I said to the first group who didn't want to see spoilers, but this may be one of those like very niche kind of camp horror stories that you may want to watch, like as part of a marathon with other movies, or just like if you have some time, sit down and watch this movie. Maybe it's worth it. I don't know. It's not one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's not one of the best, but I guess it is worth having a sit down to watch it. So with that being said, that is the end here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and come back for the next video tomorrow. And I will see all you happy little campers back in your cabin.